In this lesson, we'll create some of the materials we still have left to kind of populate our car with. So there are a few materials that we still need to create. We don't actually have a lot of materials, but one of them that we might want is kind of a black matte material, and that is something that is very dark that doesn't have a lot of specularity. So in one of these slots, we can go ahead and grab one that has a kind of a dark diffuse, kind of a black. Okay, and we can see what that looks like in here. You can see that as you up that specularity level, you can see how that makes it a little bit shinier. So we can give it kind of a very low specularity. Okay, and we can just call this something like black matte. And this can be good for things like the underbelly of the car, maybe the rear view mirrors. Okay, we can add to that. Also things like maybe the inside of some of the vents that we've got here. Places that we need to be dark, and we need to still duplicate that over to that side. But also the insides of the headlights here would probably be a good candidate for a kind of a black matte material. Okay. The next material that we want to create is kind of a clear glass material. And this could be good for things like the front of the headlights. And for this, I'm just simply going to use a blend. You can also go and look through your architectural and design materials. But I'm going to just use a simple setup here. And so we'll use a blend, give it kind of a dark color here in the diffuse. The specularity we're going to raise up quite a bit. Okay, you can see this is it right here. And we're going to also make it glossy so you can see how that's sharpening up that specular highlight. Okay, we also want it to be reflective. Okay, so we'll go to reflection, turn that on, and go grab a ray trace to plug in there. Okay, and then we'll go in back into our map, and let's dial our reflectivity down to maybe 30 or 40. Okay, we also want it to be a little bit transparent, so we can take our opacity and dial that down to about 30 as well. You can see in here it just kind of makes it look gray, so it's a little bit hard to tell what's going on. But what we want to do now is we can call this glass, and let's drop it in over our on our headlight covers. Not this one, but actually this one. And you can see how you can now see the inside of those headlights. We'll do the same thing over here, and over here, and down here as well. All right. So let's now copy this over. So I'll just drag this across, and let's change the opacity back to 100%. All right. And I'm going to dial the diffuse down quite a bit. And so we need a material for the windows. Now we don't have anything inside, or we'd make them transparent if we had some sort of an interior. But in this case, they're just going to be tinted really, really dark. So we'll go ahead and let me see, replace my material there. And I'll go ahead and just add this to all of our windows there. And it should have some reflectivity, which will help a lot. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is create chrome. And this is for things like the wheels. So for this, I'm going to go to a new slot, get material, and let's get this architectural and design material, okay, that's available when we have our metal ray renderer going. So go ahead and drop that in. And this is great because you can actually choose from these different templates. You know, you saw how we did the rubber. Okay, we can also do kind of a chrome in here. So we've got a chrome setting. Okay. And then we've got all of these material parameters. We've got the color for the refraction. So a lot of different things that you can come in and create. You can also, besides using this architectural and design material, if we look over here and get a new one, you can also use this Pro Materials Metal. And this one gives you a little bit of kind of fewer options to work with. So whereas this gives you a lot of different things to set, this one will just give you, for instance, the type of metal that you want to create. So anodized aluminum, which you can see what that looks like. That might be good for something like the brake or something like that. You've got bronze, brass. So a lot of different settings here. Copper. I'm going to go ahead and choose chrome, and you can use either one of these. I'm going to use this just because it's a little bit simpler to see what's going on here. You can also choose polished, semi-polished. You can see how that's a little bit more satin. And there's a really satin right there. I'm going to do something that's just really polished there. Okay, and we can call this chrome. All right. Now let's go ahead and drag one of these onto our cylinder there. So we'll drag it onto the wheel. Let's also drag it onto some of these different bolts here. Okay, so we want those to be to look nice too. So just kind of drag this onto all these. And one thing that you might do is actually attach all these together, all these bolts. That way you don't have to worry about just texturing all these individually. You could just attach those all. So I'm not going to go ahead and add it to all those. So that will give us a kind of a chrome. I also want a kind of a shiny black to go on the grill here. Okay, right in here. So in this slot, I'm going to create and just use a blend, give it a nice dark diffuse. Okay, and I'll make it a bit specular, a little bit glossy. Okay, make it even a little bit glossier than that. And I do want to give it a little bit of reflectivity. So down here in Maps, again, go to Reflection, and let's go ahead and drop in a ray trace here. And we'll say OK to that. Go back up to our map, and I'm going to dial that reflection way down. I just want just the tiniest bit. And then I'll go ahead and drag this onto my plane 2. And we can call this glossy black or something like that. All right. All right, we've got several materials on here, several new materials. So let's go ahead and do a render just to see where we are right now, since we haven't done one since we've created a lot of these. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick render, and this time I'll just render the entire view. So I'm going to go ahead and pause while that happens. So there we go. You can see that a lot of the materials that we have as black are actually showing up pretty gray, and a lot of that's due to the final gather. So that's one of the notes we might want to take, is to just go in and try to darken that up as much as possible. Okay, but the chrome looks good, and you can actually see the grill in there, which looks nice. So I think in the next lesson we'll go ahead and do some last minute tweaks. Between then and now, I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate the wheels. So I'm going to add just kind of that, instead of the chrome, just kind of that anodized look there to the brake, and maybe that glossy black there to the middle part. And for the caliper, just go ahead and use the black glossy and make a copy of that and just make that red and then add that in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate those tires, and I'll just select that wheel after I'm done and pull it back, and then using our working pivot, I'll just mirror that over to the other side. Okay, so we've done that many times up to now. So if you want to go ahead and do that after you texture that, we'll come in the last lesson here and just do some last minute tweaks and get a nice looking picture for you. So let's go ahead and do that next.